They
The
know we're
alien
here.
princess shuddered
If
at the
we don't
thought of
leave
a human
immediately,
husband.
this
Then
ship
she
and
met him.
everyone on it is
The
compromised.
cool breeze rustled the leaves of the floating trees, carrying the faint scent of glowing flowers that only bloomed at night. To any outsider, Zephyria seemed perfect, a world of beauty, harmony, and wisdom. But in that moment, Lyra felt trapped. The council had summoned her earlier in the day with urgent news. They had made a decision for her future, a decision she had no power to resist. She was to marry a human. The very thought made her stomach churn. A human, a being from a distant, primitive planet called Earth. Their ways, their habits, their appearance, everything about them was different from the refined, graceful culture of Zephyria. And now, she was expected to live with one as a husband. The idea was unthinkable. Her fingers brushed against the petals of a luminous flower as she tried to calm her racing mind. Lyra had always imagined her life would be filled with freedom, exploration, and learning. She had trained in art, science, and diplomacy since she was a child, preparing for her role as the Princess of Zephyria. But marriage, and to a human, that was a burden she had never expected. The Council's reasoning, of course, was sound. Zephyria had long maintained peace and prosperity through careful alliances with neighboring planets. Humans, with their ingenuity and spirit, had become an important force in interstellar trade and exploration. By marrying a human, Zephyria would strengthen its bonds with Earth, ensuring prosperity for generations to come. The Council's words echoed in her mind, logical and compelling, but her heart refused to accept them. Lyra's younger brother, Prince Kale, found her in the garden later that evening. He was a lively boy of 16, full of curiosity and mischief. His presence usually brought her comfort, but tonight, even his cheerful smile could not lift the weight on her shoulders. "Lyra, you look troubled," Kale said, stepping closer. "Is it about the council?" She nodded silently, staring at the glowing petals around her. I never imagined that they would choose a human for me. I can't even picture living with someone so different." Kale frowned, though his tone remained gentle. "I know humans are strange to us, Lyra, but the council chose this one carefully. They said he is smart, brave, and respectful. Maybe he will surprise you." Lyra shook her head. "I doubt it. He doesn't belong here. He doesn't understand Zephyrian ways, our traditions, our life. How can I share my life with someone so foreign?" Kale hesitated, then smiled softly. "Sometimes, Lyra, we think we know everything about the universe, but the universe surprises us. You might be wrong about him." Lyra let out a small sigh. Perhaps Kale was right. Perhaps. But even as she admitted the possibility, her mind filled with images of a human stumbling through palace halls, touching objects without permission, misunderstanding etiquette, and speaking in a clumsy, blunt way. The thought made her shudder. The following week, preparations for the human's arrival began. The palace buzzed with activity, servants polishing the floors, engineers adjusting energy conduits, and scholars reviewing protocols for interspecies meetings. Lyra moved among them silently, her usual grace masking the storm of emotions within her. She could not ignore the feeling of dread growing in her chest. Finally, the day arrived. Lyra was led to the grand hall to meet the human for the first time. She had spent hours preparing, practicing her posture, her expressions, her voice. Every gesture had to be precise, every word carefully measured. Zephyrian culture valued elegance, discipline, and wisdom, and she could not afford to falter. The grand doors opened and he stepped in. Alex Carter, a human ambassador from Earth. He was not what she had expected. He was tall, with broad shoulders, a kind face, and eyes that seemed genuinely curious. His smile was open, friendly, and somehow disarming. Lyra could feel her initial irritation at his blunt presence begin to shift. "Princess Lyra," he said, bowing slightly, a gesture that seemed both respectful and awkward, not fully aligned with Zephyrian etiquette. "It's an honor to meet you." Lyra inclined her head, careful to maintain composure. "Welcome to Zephyria, Alex Carter." Her voice was calm, formal, yet she could not hide a flicker of curiosity. They spent the next hour exchanging pleasantries, discussing their respective worlds and observing the palace's customs. Alex asked questions, not invasive or disrespectful, but sincere, showing a desire to understand. Lyra noticed how his eyes lingered on the floating gardens with wonder, how he marveled at the luminous petals and the twin moons. He did not scoff or mock, he admired. After the meeting, Lyra retreated to her chambers. She paced back and forth, trying to process her thoughts. The human had arrived and he was different. Not rude, not clumsy, not disrespectful. He seemed thoughtful, attentive, even gentle, the very qualities she had feared humans lacked. Over the next few days, Lyra observed him closely. He learned Zephyrian etiquette quickly, though not perfectly. He asked questions about their art, their science, their history. He smiled at the floating gardens as if they were the most wonderful sight in the universe. He laughed at small, harmless things that Lyra herself had never noticed. One afternoon, while walking near the crystal waterfall that powered part of the palace, Lyra accidentally tripped over a root of a luminous plant. Alex was there in an instant, steadying her with a hand that was surprisingly firm but gentle. "Are you all right, Princess?" he asked, concern in his voice. Lyra looked at him, startled by the sincerity in his tone. Yes, I am fine, thank you," he smiled warmly. "You must be careful. These gardens are beautiful, but they can be tricky to navigate." Lyra felt something shift inside her. Perhaps this human was not the clumsy, intrusive creature she had imagined. Perhaps he had a heart as careful, curious, and kind as any Zephyrian's. As the days passed, Lyra found herself noticing small things: Alex's patience when observing delicate flowers, his careful handling of Zephyrian artifacts, the way he listened more than he spoke. Each observation chipped away at her resistance, though she would not admit it. Not yet. Yet, even as she began to see his good qualities, she reminded herself of her duty. She was a princess, and her role was to maintain Zephyria's legacy. Marrying a human was not about feelings. It was about alliance, peace, and responsibility. She could not let curiosity or admiration cloud her judgment. One evening, Lyra stood on the palace balcony looking out at the twin moons. Alex joined her, carrying a small tray of Zephyrian tea. He handed her a cup without a word, a silent gesture of respect. "Thank you," she said softly. He nodded, his eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Princess Lyra, I know I am from a distant world and I do not fully understand your customs, but I hope to learn and to serve our worlds together." Lyra took a deep breath, realizing that perhaps the human's arrival was not just a burden. Perhaps it was an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to see the universe from a new perspective. As the moons cast their gentle glow over Zephyria, Lyra allowed herself a small, hesitant smile. The human had arrived. And for the first time, she wondered, could this stranger, so different from her, truly become someone she could trust? Princess Lyra woke the next morning with a strange mix of feelings inside her heart. She was still unsure about the future, still unsure about the idea of marrying a human, yet something inside her was quieter than before. The fear she once felt was not as strong now. Instead, there was curiosity. She wanted to understand this human more. She wanted to see what he was truly like when he was not simply behaving as a guest or diplomat. Across the palace, Alex Carter was also deep in thought. From the moment he arrived, he had tried to show respect, patience, and kindness. He understood very well that Zephyrians had doubts about humans. They had a peaceful, gentle culture, and Earth was known for being loud, emotional, and sometimes unpredictable. Alex did not want to be another reason for fear. He wanted to prove that humans could be thoughtful, caring, and worthy of trust. The council had arranged several cultural exchange days where Lyra and Alex were supposed to spend time together. They were to learn from each other, understand each other's worlds, and slowly create comfort between their hearts instead of forcing it. Lyra knew this was wise, but knowing it was wise did not make it easy. Their first activity together was a tour of Zephiria's Science Institute. The place was built of smooth crystal structures that shimmered softly under the twin suns. Inside, everything seemed to glow with calm light. Zephirian scientists greeted Alex warmly and explained their technology. They talked about clean energy, healing devices, and ways they protected nature while still building progress. Alex listened with wide eyes, asking thoughtful questions. Lyra walked slightly ahead of him, listening too, but also watching him carefully. She expected him to show arrogance or try to compare everything to human inventions. Instead, he showed admiration. He praised their ideas, thanked them for sharing knowledge, and often said how much humans could learn from Zephirians. Lyra felt a soft warmth in her chest. She had expected pride. Instead, she saw humility. That surprised her. Later that afternoon, they moved to the learning halls, where young Zephirians studied art, science, and culture. Children gathered around Alex with shining, curious eyes. They had never seen a human before. Some shyly hid behind their teachers. Others walked closer with innocent excitement. One little child stared at his hands, amazed by how different they looked. Alex smiled gently and let the child touch his fingers. He laughed softly and did not push anyone away. He explained his planet in simple, friendly words. He spoke of oceans, mountains, singing birds, and changing seasons. His voice held warmth instead of pride. His stories felt honest, kind, and gentle. Lyra stood quietly and watched. She did not even realize she was smiling. For the first time, she did not see him as a stranger from a strange world. She saw him as someone capable of kindness, patience, and warmth, qualities that mattered deeply in Zephirian culture. That evening, they had to attend a small private dinner prepared especially for them. The hall was peaceful, softly lit with glowing blue crystals. The table was filled with Zephirian dishes made from fruits, light grains, and sweet nectar drinks. Alex looked amazed but slightly nervous. Lyra noticed his hesitation and spoke gently for the first time that day. She explained each dish to him, told him what was sweet, what was light, and what was new. Alex listened to every word and thanked her after every explanation. When he tasted the food, his face brightened like a child seeing something beautiful for the first time. "This is amazing," he said honestly. "Your world tastes like peace." Lyra let out a soft, surprised laugh. It was a real laugh, warm and natural. Alex looked at her, slightly stunned, because it was the first time he had seen her smile so freely. After dinner, they walked slowly through the crystal garden. The night sky was filled with gentle, sparkling lights. The floating flowers glowed softly. The wind carried peaceful whispers. Neither of them rushed to speak. They simply walked together, not as a princess and a political obligation, but as two beings sharing a quiet moment. Alex finally broke the silence, speaking in a calm voice. He told her about his childhood, about sitting under the stars on Earth, dreaming of space, dreaming of seeing other worlds. He told her he never imagined he would one day stand beside an alien princess on a beautiful planet like Zephyria. Lyra listened carefully. His words were sincere. There was no pretending in him. He did not present himself as a hero or a great figure. He spoke like a simple person with honest dreams. That honesty made Lyra feel safe around him. She did not feel judged. She did not feel pressured. She only felt seen. Days turned into more shared experiences. They visited the floating libraries, where books hovered gently in the air like soft birds. Alex was fascinated by Zephirian knowledge and treated every book with respect. Lyra grew impressed at how much effort he put into understanding their culture. They visited the art halls, where Zephirian paintings were alive with slow, graceful movement. Alex stood quietly, admiring the beauty without rushing. Lyra could tell he was not impressed just to be polite. He truly admired it from his heart. She could see it in his eyes. One afternoon, a small festival was held in the palace gardens. It was not a loud festival. Zephyrian celebrations were peaceful and full of music and light. Soft melodies floated through the air. Children danced slowly, elders shared stories, and the sky shimmered with floating lanterns. Alex was invited to join one of the cultural activities where participants created light patterns in the air with gentle hand movements. At first he was unsure. His movements were clumsy and slightly awkward. Lyra tried to hide her smile, but when he noticed, he laughed at himself. Instead of feeling embarrassed, he simply tried again with patience and humor. Soon, with Lyra guiding his hands, his movements became smoother. The glowing lights around them formed beautiful shapes in the sky. When the pattern finished, the crowd softly applauded. Alex looked at Lyra with gratitude, and Lyra felt a strange warmth spread through her heart. She was beginning to enjoy his presence. She was beginning to trust him, and that realization surprised her. That night, Lyra returned to her chambers and sat quietly thinking. When she first heard of the human marriage plan, she felt fear, doubt, and discomfort. She imagined a human as careless, loud, and disrespectful. But Alex was none of those things. He was calm, thoughtful, curious, and incredibly respectful. He did not try to force himself into her world. Instead, he stepped gently, learning carefully, always trying to understand before acting. She began to understand something important. Maybe humans were not defined by their differences. Maybe they were defined by their hearts, and Alex's heart, she could see, was kind. Meanwhile, Alex sat on his balcony thinking of Lyra. When he first arrived, he was nervous. He did not know if she would ever accept him, but slowly he had seen her gentle side. She was strong and responsible, yet she carried kindness in every careful word she spoke. She was elegant, yet sometimes quietly funny. She was disciplined, yet capable of soft warmth when she allowed herself to relax. He admired her deeply now. Not just because she was a princess, but because she was a caring soul trying to do what was right for her people, even when it meant facing something frightening and unfamiliar. The bond between them was still new, still fragile, but it was real. It was not forced by duty. It was slowly growing from trust, respect, and understanding. As days continued, the palace began to notice the small changes. Lyra no longer avoided him. She spoke more openly. She sometimes laughed around him. Alex felt more relaxed in her presence, less like an outsider and more like someone who belonged. The council members whispered among themselves with relief. They had hoped for alliance, but what they were seeing now was something even more powerful: connection. Lyra stood once again beneath the twin moons one night, just like in the beginning, but this time her heart felt lighter. The girl who once shuddered at the thought of a human husband now found herself curious, hopeful, and quietly amazed. She did not yet know what the future would hold. She did not know if love would come or how strong their bond would become. But she knew one thing with certainty now: she was no longer afraid of the human. Instead, she wanted to know him more. The days continued to pass softly on Zephyria, and the bond between Princess Lyra and Alex slowly grew stronger. Yet even with growing comfort, there were still questions inside Lyra's heart. She respected him. She trusted him more than before. But could a human and a Zephyrian truly share a life together? Could two different worlds connect deeply enough to stay united? These thoughts stayed with her like a gentle whisper in the back of her mind. One bright morning, the palace prepared for something very important. A great cultural and science exchange event was planned. Leaders, scholars, and citizens from across Zephyria would gather to see new ideas, share knowledge, and celebrate unity between planets. This event was also meant to show the world that the upcoming alliance with Earth was meaningful. Lyra knew the eyes of her people would be watching not just the event, but her and Alex as well. Alex understood this too. He wanted to prove that humans deserved trust. He wanted people to see that humans were not careless or selfish, but capable of wisdom, creativity, and kindness. He did not feel scared, but he did feel the weight of responsibility. He wanted to honor Lyra, her people, and the future they were slowly building together. The event began in the Grand Plaza. Soft lights floated gently in the air. Music played like a calm river flowing through the wind. People walked peacefully among displays of Zephyrian science, floating art, and beautiful knowledge crystals that shimmered when touched. Lyra and Alex were to present a joint demonstration. It was a symbolic task. They would work together to activate a harmony field, a beautiful energy projection that would fill the sky with lights representing unity and understanding. It was not dangerous. It was simply delicate and deeply meaningful. If it worked, it would show that two different minds could create beauty together. Lyra felt slightly tense, although she tried not to show it. Alex noticed, because by now he understood her well enough to see the small signs. He smiled gently. "We will do this together," he said softly, "like everything else lately." She looked at him, a little surprised by how comforting his voice felt. "Yes," she replied, and there was warmth in her words. They stood before the control platform. Zephyrian engineers had designed the system carefully, but the final activation required teamwork. Lyra was used to precision and calm control. Alex was used to adapting and adjusting quickly. Both skills were needed. As they began, something unexpected happened. The harmony field did not respond the way it normally should. The lights flickered in an unsteady way, not harmful but uncertain and unstable. A quiet murmur spread through the crowd. This was supposed to be a symbol of unity, and now it seemed to be failing. Lyra felt a rush of worry. This was exactly what she feared, proof that a human and a Zephyrian could not work together as smoothly as hoped. She tried to correct the field using careful, exact movements, but the system reacted too slowly. Alex could see the concern in her eyes. He did not panic. Instead, he began thinking calmly. He studied the display, noticed how the field was reacting, and spoke in a steady voice. "It is not broken. It just needs adjustment. Your system expects perfect balance, but maybe it needs a little flexible control." Lyra listened. Normally, she preferred structure over improvisation, but she had learned something important while spending time with Alex. Sometimes, letting another viewpoint guide you leads to better results. She nodded softly. "Show me what you think." They worked together closely. Lyra handled the precise settings while Alex guided timing and rhythm. Instead of fighting the unstable energy, they gently guided it like calming a restless breeze. Slowly, the flickering lights softened. The field stabilized. Then it began to glow beautifully. The sky filled with glowing shapes, soft flowing light, and peaceful colors that danced slowly like living art. The crowd gasped, not in fear but in wonder. The projection was even more beautiful than the original plan. It was not perfect in a cold, mechanical way. It was alive, warm, and emotional, like something carrying both logic and heart. Lyra looked at the sky, then looked at Alex. Her eyes shined, not only with pride but with understanding. She realized something powerful in that moment. Humans did not need to be exactly like Zephyrians to be worthy partners. Their strength was not in perfection. Their strength was in creativity, adaptability, and the ability to turn uncertainty into something beautiful. The audience softly applauded. Some Zephyrians smiled with relief. Others smiled with genuine admiration. For the first time, many of them truly saw humans in a new light. Later, after the event ended, Lyra and Alex walked together through the quieter side of the gardens. The sky still reflected soft traces of light from their shared creation. Neither of them spoke at first. The silence was comfortable, like a gentle blanket around them. Finally, Lyra spoke. Her voice was calm, thoughtful, and sincere. "Today taught me something important. I always believed harmony meant perfect control, but maybe real harmony means trusting another mind. Maybe it means allowing two different ways to meet in the middle." Alex looked at her with warmth. "I think harmony means listening." Your world taught me calm thinking and patience. Maybe I brought a little flexibility. Together, it became something special." She smiled at him, and this smile was not hesitant or uncertain. It was open and genuine. Their connection deepened after that day. They began to spend more time not just learning, but simply existing together. They had quiet conversations about dreams, fears, and hopes. They shared stories of Earth and Zephyria. They laughed sometimes, not loudly, but softly and sincerely. One afternoon, Lyra took Alex to a place she rarely shared with anyone, a quiet floating platform above the highest gardens, where clouds drifted close enough to touch. This was her secret thinking place. It meant something that she brought him here. They sat together, looking over the beautiful world below. "Alex," she said gently, "when I first heard about you, I was afraid. I thought humans were too different. I thought I would never be able to understand you, and you would never understand me. But now things feel different." He listened carefully. He always listened. "You showed me that difference is not something to fear. It is something to learn from. You helped me see that unity is not about becoming the same. It is about growing together." Alex felt something warm fill his heart. He did not respond with fancy words. He simply placed his hand gently over his chest and said, "Thank you for letting me be part of your world." Lyra looked at him, and for the first time the idea of a future with a human did not scare her. It felt meaningful. It felt hopeful. It felt real. Back in the palace, the council quietly observed these changes. They were pleased, but more importantly, they were touched. Their plan had been political at first, but now they could see something much more genuine forming between Lyra and Alex. Lyra returned to her chambers that evening with a calm heart. She looked out at the twin moons once again, but unlike before, her heart did not feel heavy. Instead, it felt warm. The princess who once shuddered at the thought of a human husband was now slowly opening her heart to the idea. She was not yet in love, but she was no longer afraid of love finding her. And somewhere inside Alex's heart, a quiet promise formed too. He would do everything he could to honor this world, this princess, and the future they were slowly walking toward together. The story of Zephyria and Earth was changing, not through force, not through fear, but through understanding, patience, and the beautiful courage to trust something new. The days on Zephyria grew brighter and quieter as Lyra and Alex continued to spend time together. Each morning, the princess would wake with thoughts of the human who had slowly become a part of her life. She had begun to notice the small ways he made the world lighter, how he spoke to children with patience, how he handled delicate flowers with care, and how he listened without judgment. It was not only respect that he showed, it was understanding. And that understanding touched something deep inside her. One morning, the palace sent word that a scientific expedition would take place. The council had chosen a remote floating forest filled with rare plants and luminous creatures. Lyra was expected to lead the observation, and Alex was to accompany her, assisting as a human representative. She felt a flutter of nervousness. These forests were delicate, and the creatures sensitive. One wrong move could disturb the ecosystem. But with Alex at her side, she felt a little less tense, though she would not admit it aloud. As they entered the forest, soft mist rose from the glowing flora, creating an almost magical atmosphere. Alex moved carefully, watching Lyra's gestures, learning from the way she navigated the forest paths. He asked questions not just out of curiosity, but because he genuinely wanted to understand. Lyra explained the importance of each plant and how the light patterns of the creatures were connected to the health of the forest. At one point, a small creature, no larger than a glowing crystal, approached Alex. It moved cautiously, its eyes reflecting soft light. Alex froze for a moment, unsure what to do. Lyra observed quietly, smiling at his gentle hesitation. Slowly, he held out a hand, letting the creature sniff it before it climbed lightly onto his shoulder. The princess was impressed. Many Zephyrians had trouble with these creatures because they could sense fear and impatience. Alex had none of those. He had calm patience, and that allowed trust to form between him and the tiny being. Lyra realized, more than ever, that humans could adapt and connect in ways she had not expected. They were not perfect in the way Zephyrians were, but their hearts held courage and care. She felt warmth at the thought and wondered if perhaps her feelings for him were beginning to change. She had never imagined she would think this way about a human, yet here she was. As they explored deeper, a sudden challenge arose. A small bridge of delicate crystal had partially cracked, making passage dangerous. Lyra stopped, considering the best approach. She knew she could cross it alone, but she could not risk Alex's safety. "We need to find another way," she said carefully. Alex studied the bridge and the surrounding area. "Maybe we can use the support rods over there," he suggested, pointing. "We can stabilize the path together." Lyra studied his idea. It was clever, using flexible solutions rather than forcing strength. She nodded, allowing him to take the lead in setting the rods while she provided precise adjustments. Together, their teamwork allowed them to cross safely. Once they were on the other side, they laughed softly, sharing relief. It was not a loud laugh, but it carried the quiet joy of overcoming a challenge together. Lyra noticed how much she had come to rely on him, not just as a companion, but as someone whose ideas and actions she could trust completely. Later that evening, as they rested by a crystal-clear stream, Alex shared a story from Earth. He spoke of the forests back home, of rivers that sang with flowing water, and of animals that had learned to trust humans over generations. His words were simple, but painted vivid images in Lyra's mind. She began to understand that humans, though different, carried the same love and respect for life as Zephyrians did. Lyra responded by telling him stories of Zephyria's history, the struggles her people had faced, and the lessons learned over generations. She had never shared these stories with anyone outside the royal family before, but with Alex, it felt natural. He listened quietly, asking thoughtful questions without interrupting. "You carry your world in your heart," Alex said softly. "It's beautiful." Lyra felt a warmth she could not explain. No human had ever spoken with such insight or sincerity before. For the first time, she considered the possibility that her heart might not just respect him, it might be drawn to him. Over the next few days, the two continued to explore Zephyria together. They visited the floating libraries, walked through the gardens, and even experimented with light patterns in the air, creating glowing shapes that danced and intertwined. Each experience built trust, understanding, and a quiet companionship that neither had expected to form so quickly. One night, Lyra found herself on the palace balcony again, staring at the twin moons. Alex joined her without a word, carrying a small lantern that cast gentle light. He did not try to impress her. He simply stood beside her, sharing the quiet night. "Lyra," he said softly, "do you ever think about what it would be like if we could see the universe together? Not as a princess and a human, but as two people exploring, learning, and sharing life." Lyra looked at him, surprised. The question was simple, yet it held depth. She had thought of the future often, but always as duty, responsibility, and alliance. She had never imagined a future with shared joy and curiosity. The thought made her heart flutter. I have thought of it," she admitted. "But it feels strange. I never imagined I could see it with a human." Alex smiled gently. "I am not just any human. I want to learn, to respect, and to share. I want to see your world as it truly is, not as a stranger. And I hope to be part of it if you will let me." Lyra's heart felt lighter than it had in years. The fear, the doubt, and the shuddering at the thought of a human husband were slowly fading. In their place came trust, admiration, and a quiet warmth that she had not expected. As the nights passed, the two continued to share experiences, small victories, and soft laughter. They discovered mutual respect in differences, learned to value unique approaches, and began to realize that unity did not mean sameness. Harmony came from understanding, patience, and the willingness to see through another's eyes. Lyra noticed that she was thinking of him more often, not just as a human or as a representative of Earth, but as someone whose presence made her world brighter. Alex, too, found himself caring deeply for Lyra, not only for her wisdom and grace but for her heart, which carried the beauty of her people and her planet. One afternoon, a gentle challenge arose. A rare Zephyrian bird had become trapped in a glowing vine. It was not dangerous, but it required careful handling. Lyra instinctively moved to rescue it, but Alex gently stopped her. "Let me," he said quietly. "I think we can do this together without hurting it." Together, they carefully freed the bird. It flapped its wings and hovered above them for a moment, glowing softly, as if thanking them. Lyra smiled, amazed by how Alex's calm approach complemented her careful precision. By the end of the day, Lyra realized something she could not ignore any longer. She no longer shuddered at the thought of a human husband. She no longer feared differences. She saw that humans, at their best, could share her values, protect her world, and walk beside her as equals. That evening, under the twin moons, Lyra and Alex sat together quietly. Words were unnecessary. The air carried the understanding that had grown between them, a bond built not by duty but by respect, trust, and shared experience. Lyra finally spoke, her voice soft but firm. "I never thought I could feel this way. But I see now, humans can be remarkable, and you, Alex, have shown me that." Alex turned to her, a gentle smile on his face. "And you have shown me that worlds as different as ours can connect, that respect, patience, and care can create something beautiful." In that moment, the distance between Zephyria and Earth, between princess and human, seemed smaller. It was not gone entirely, but it felt manageable, promising, and full of hope. They were no longer two strangers brought together by duty. They were two beings learning to grow together, ready to explore not only their worlds but the possibility of something deeper. The nights passed quietly after that. Lyra's heart felt open for the first time, and Alex's presence no longer carried the weight of uncertainty. They had faced small challenges, shared quiet victories, and discovered the strength in understanding and patience. The princess who once shuddered at the thought of a human husband now allowed herself to imagine a future filled with trust, curiosity, and the gentle warmth of companionship. And somewhere inside Alex's heart, a quiet hope grew too, a hope that their worlds, so different yet now intertwined, could walk forward together into a shared and extraordinary future. The day of the official ceremony arrived, and the palace was filled with calm excitement. Guests from across Zephyria gathered alongside humans who had traveled to witness the union that symbolized more than a marriage. It symbolized trust, understanding, and the potential of two worlds coming together. Princess Lyra stood in her chambers for a moment, taking a deep breath as she looked at the soft glow of the twin moons filtering through the window. Today, she was not just a princess fulfilling a duty. She was a being who had grown, learned, and chosen to embrace something new. Alex was already waiting at the ceremonial hall, dressed in clothing carefully designed to honor both Earth and Zephyrian tradition. He adjusted the sleeve of his robe and took a quiet breath, feeling the weight of the day, yet not allowing it to overwhelm him. He had prepared his mind and heart, ready to show respect, understanding, and care in every action. The ceremony began as soft music floated through the air. The halls were adorned with luminous flowers, crystal light patterns, and gentle floating lanterns. The guests watched quietly, aware that what they were witnessing was more than a formal event. It was a meeting of worlds, a symbol of unity, and a story of trust growing between two very different beings. Lyra walked toward Alex, her steps calm and deliberate. She felt the warmth of confidence, knowing that the journey to this point had changed her. She remembered her first thoughts about humans, her shudder, her fear, and her doubt. And now she looked at Alex and saw someone who had not only earned her trust but had taught her patience, kindness, and courage in ways she had never expected. Alex stood as she approached, his expression gentle and respectful. When their eyes met, a quiet understanding passed between them. This was no longer about duty alone. It was about partnership, shared experience, and a bond that had grown steadily, like a delicate plant nurtured with care. The ceremony proceeded with careful ritual. They exchanged symbols of unity, a crystal pendant representing Zephyria's wisdom, and a small gem from Earth representing creativity and adaptability. As Lyra placed the pendant around Alex's neck, she felt a small, warm surge of connection. He returned the gesture with the Earth gem, placing it gently around her wrist. Their eyes met again, and without words they both understood that this symbol was more than a ritual, it was a promise. When the officiant spoke of alliance, trust, and shared goals, the words felt natural rather than forced. Lyra and Alex had already learned the meaning behind them through their actions, conversations, and experiences. The speeches were not just political, they reflected the truth of the bond that had quietly grown between them. After the formal part of the ceremony, Lyra and Alex moved to the gardens to celebrate with their guests. Floating lights shimmered gently above, and the twin moons reflected softly in the streams that ran through the palace grounds. Children from Zephyria and humans from Earth explored together, exchanging stories, laughter, and curiosity. It was a quiet celebration of friendship and understanding, the kind that grew from genuine connection rather than obligation. Lyra noticed how Alex interacted with everyone, moving gracefully between cultures. He spoke with children about the stars, showed Zephyrians how humans play music with simple instruments, and listened carefully to the stories of elders. He did not seek attention or praise. Instead, he shared knowledge, respect, and care. The princess realized that he had not only changed her perception of humans, but had quietly inspired others as well. Later, as the night settled, Lyra and Alex found a quiet spot away from the crowd. They sat together on a soft floating platform, watching the gentle glow of lanterns and the reflection of the twin moons on the water below. The soft sounds of music and laughter were distant now, leaving them with a calm, private moment. Lyra spoke first, her voice calm yet full of meaning. "I remember when I first heard of humans. I was afraid, unsure, and even angry at the idea of this marriage. But now I cannot imagine being afraid. I have learned so much from you, Alex. You have shown patience, respect, and kindness. You have shown that two very different worlds can truly meet and grow together." Alex listened quietly, feeling a gentle warmth spread through him. He had felt similar fear when he first arrived, unsure of whether he would be accepted or understood. But Lyra had been patient, teaching him, guiding him, and allowing him to show who he was. "I never thought I could learn so much from one person in such a short time," he replied softly. "You have shown me the beauty of your world and the strength of your people. You have shown me how to see carefully, listen deeply, and act with patience. I hope to continue learning with you always." Lyra looked at him, and for the first time she realized that her heart felt lighter than it ever had. She no longer shuddered at the thought of a human husband. She felt hope, trust, and a quiet joy. She realized that the human beside her was not only her partner for the future, but also a companion who could walk beside her through challenges, celebrations, and ordinary days alike. As the twin moons reflected on their faces, they sat together quietly. There was no need for grand words. Each understood the other through presence, patience, and shared experience. Their journey had not been about instant love, but about growing trust, mutual respect, and the understanding that differences could be celebrated rather than feared. In the following days, Lyra and Alex worked together on projects to further connect their worlds. They created knowledge exchanges where Zephyrian science could be shared with Earth and Earth creativity could be shared with Zephyria. They organized art displays, music sessions, and small collaborative projects that showed that collaboration, patience, and kindness could achieve remarkable results. Lyra discovered joy in seeing humans and Zephyrians learn from one another. She saw curiosity spark in eyes that once held doubt. She saw laughter and respect grow where fear and misunderstanding had existed. And she saw Alex, always steady, always respectful, always gentle, quietly inspiring everyone around him. One evening, Lyra walked with Alex through the palace gardens. The flowers glowed softly in the night, and the air carried a calm fragrance. Lyra took a deep breath, feeling a quiet courage rising in her heart. "Alex," she said softly but firmly, "I never imagined that I could feel this way about a human, but now I feel something I cannot ignore. I feel trust, respect, and something deeper. Something like hope for the future, not just for Zephyria, but for both our worlds." Alex looked at her, a soft smile on his face. "Lyra, I feel the same. I never expected to find someone like you to share these experiences and to learn so much from you. But I do, and I hope we can continue together, not only as a symbol of alliance but as companions and friends. Perhaps, even more if the future allows." The princess and the human sat together under the twin moons, knowing that the journey had only just begun. Their worlds were still different, but their hearts had discovered a connection that could bridge any distance. They had learned that respect, patience, and understanding could create harmony where fear once existed. They had discovered the beauty of growing together, learning together, and trusting one another. In the weeks that followed, Zephyria and Earth began to exchange more knowledge, art, and culture. Humans and Zephyrians worked together on joint projects, exploring new technologies and creating solutions that neither could have achieved alone. The story of the princess and the human became a symbol of hope, a living example that differences could be embraced, that collaboration could lead to growth, and that the heart's willingness to trust could change worlds. Lyra and Alex continued to walk side by side, sharing quiet moments and grand adventures. They laughed, learned, and explored, showing that a bond built on respect and understanding could flourish even across the stars. The princess who once shuddered at the thought of a human husband had learned to trust, to hope, and to see the remarkable strength within a being from another world. The twin moons shone brightly over Zephyria that night, reflecting on streams, gardens, and crystal halls. In that quiet light, two hearts sat together, bound not by obligation, but by shared experiences, mutual respect, and the gentle promise of a future filled with understanding, curiosity, and joy. The story of Princess Lyra and Alex Carter became a tale told across Zephyria and Earth alike, a story of courage, patience, and the extraordinary power of humans to connect, learn, and grow. And for Lyra, the future no longer held fear. It held hope, friendship, and the quiet certainty that two worlds, when joined with care, could create something beautiful, lasting, and beyond imagination.